Forget everything you know about borders. Some U.S. states feel more Canadian than American, where sorry slips out naturally. Maple syrup is a lifestyle, and winters are legendary. These places don't just sit near Canada, they practically are Canada. From snow-covered silence to hockey mania, these states could swap flags tomorrow and few would notice. Ready to explore America's honorary provinces? Let's dive into the top 10 U.S. states that are Canadian at heart. Walk into a Vermont town and you might think you've entered Quebec by mistake. Over 70% forested and covered in snow for much of the year. Vermont lives like Canada's quiet cousin. People here are polite, eco-conscious, and syrup-obsessed. Even their accents have a touch of Nova Scotia charm. With under 650,000 residents, fewer than Winnipeg, the whole state feels like one big Canadian village. Calm, cozy, and wrapped in flannel, Vermont isn't just near Canada. It is Canada, spiritually. Think your winter's bad? Try one that freezes your eyelashes and makes you say, "You betcha," like a local. Minnesota shares a 547-mile border with Canada and an even bigger cultural overlap. With more than 10,000 lakes and hockey everywhere, it's southern Manitoba in disguise. Even their accent and friendliness match Saskatchewan's vibe. They serve poutine at the fair, love the outdoors, and embrace the cold like pros. Let's face it, Minnesota's halfway across the border already. Before we reveal the rest, hit subscribe. We've got untold stories, wild truths, and maps that come alive. Don't miss the surprises ahead. Where fog hugs the coast and winters harden the soul, Maine whispers Canada in every snowy gust. It borders Quebec and New Brunswick. And in towns like Madawaska, French is as common as flannel. 90% forested, Maine is practically Canada in terrain alone. Snowstorms here shut down nothing. People shovel, smile, and keep going. Lobster boats, lighthouses. Slow living, it's reserved. Polite and proudly rugged. If you're looking for Canadian energy without a passport, Maine delivers. Washington feels more British. Columbia than American West. Seattle and Vancouver are cultural twins, techie, chill, and surrounded by jaw-dropping nature. In northern towns, Canadian radio is clearer than U.S. stations, and some locals boat to work from Canada. The recycling, vegan cafes, and understated humor, peak Canadian. Even Point Roberts can't be reached without crossing into British Columbia. Michigan is southern Ontario's sibling. The Upper Peninsula is culturally cut off from the U.S. and deeply tied to Canada. With shared bridges, frozen lakes, and radio stations from Windsor, the crossover is real. People say, ride snowmobiles to the store and treat hockey like gospel. Winters are vicious, but the people are humble, tight-knit, and resourceful. From fishing to forestry, the economy even mirrors Canada's. If you're in Michigan, you're already halfway Canadian. Think you know cold? Alaska laughs at cold. Some areas here get darker than midnight and colder than Mars. It's the only U.S. state that borders Canada for over 1,500 miles, and many towns are only accessible through Canadian roads. In rural regions, people depend on Canadian weather alerts and even watch Canadian TV. Life here mirrors Canada's northern frontier, off-grid living, rugged resilience, and deep Indigenous roots. Even emergency supplies sometimes arrive from Canadian provinces. Alaskans often feel more connected to Whitehorse than Washington, D.C. It's wild, remote, and almost more Canadian than Canada itself. They don't honk. They compost, they hike. Welcome to Oregon. With over 30 million acres of forest and a coastline as raw as it gets, Oregon thrives on nature. Cities like Portland and Eugene live and breathe sustainability. Think bike lanes, local coffee, and raincoats as a fashion statement. It doesn't border Canada, but it sure vibes like British Columbia. The mindset? Progressive, eco-conscious, and fiercely local. People here celebrate overcast skies the way others celebrate sunshine. If you've ever been to Vancouver Island, Oregon will feel like its long-lost twin. Live free or die sounds intense until you see how calmly New Hampshire lives it. Tucked near Quebec and Maine, this small state carries big northern energy. Over 80% forested, it embraces a quiet, outdoor-focused life. Skiing, snowshoeing, and ice fishing aren't hobbies, they're rituals. French-Canadian influence hums through small towns. There's no sales tax, and community meetings still shape local policies, just like many parts of Canada. It's independent, reserved, and built for winter. If you've ever experienced February in the White Mountains, you'll understand it's subarctic survival Canadian style. Montana doesn't just feel Canadian, it practically breathes it. Sharing over 500 miles of border with 3 provinces, it's a land of open skies, silence, and snow-capped peaks. Drive north through Glacier National Park and you'll hit Waterton in Alberta. Same views, same vibe. Ranchers near the border often have closer ties to Saskatchewan than their own capital. Life here is slow, steady, and nature-driven. Local radio sometimes comes from Canada, not Billings. It's a place where solitude is sacred and survival is second. Nature, just like the Canadian frontier. Stood in snow so thick and skies, so endless you forgot where the U.S. ends and Canada begins? Welcome to North Dakota. Sharing over 300 miles of border with Manitoba and Saskatchewan, this state feels like a Canadian twin. The prairie life, frozen roads, and low population density, identical on both sides. In towns like Fargo or Grand Forks, the accents, winter rituals, and survival skills scream Saskatchewan. Some counties have more cows than people, and yes, they plug in their cars at night just like in Winnipeg. Even their power grids are connected. North Dakota may fly the stars and stripes, but in soul, it's maple leaf country. So there you have it, 10 U.S. states. Already halfway Canadian in culture, climate, and character. If you learned something new, hit that like button. Subscribe for more fascinating comparisons. And share this with someone who swears they'd never live in Canada, even though they basically already do. See you in the next one!